One of my most favorite websites I use to check data in terms of UEFA Country Ranking and other rankings is one developed by Bert Kassiesa. So this website has a lot of useful data you can use to do some visualizations and also to check like history and understand why some clubs are seeded or not seeded in different qualification or cup stages. So what I tend to do and what we will do in this course, so we will visit the page called Country Ranking, like here, and you will see a nice table that contains a bunch of columns. So first column contains the current ranking, second is a trend. So when you take a look at Cyprus, you can see that it improved compared to recent standings. Then you have 5 columns that denote different seasons, and you can also see that there is current season, which is still to be updated because the league phase for all of the competitions is just about to start. Then you have ranking, which is the sum of 5 columns from different seasons, and teams. So teams have 2 numbers. The first number represents teams that are still active in European competitions for all of the for given country, and second number represents how many teams were delegated by given country. So you can see that top 6 teams from Europe have still all of their teams active in the competitions, and there is also one nice example from bottom of the table, which is Poland, which is currently, as per today, on the place number 13 and still has 4 out of 4 teams in the competition. So we will use Poland as an example, and I want to showcase to you how this number 4.875, so this is the coefficient as of current season, if this season would end today, and I would like to show you how this number is calculated. To understand that, let's go to another page on this website, which is called Country Coefficients. So if you enter this web page, what you can see is that for every single country you have a separate table. So let's focus on an example of Poland once again. So we have 4 teams from Poland that entered European competitions this season. From column cup we can see that all of them play in the Conference League. Next 3 columns represent qualification, wins, draws and losses, and next 3 columns represent wins, draws and losses from the league stages and above. The qualification wins are worth 1 point contribution and the draws are worth half a point. For the league stages and above, this is multiplied by 2 to end up with 2 points for win and 1 point for draw. So if we focus on one team example, Legia Warsaw, we can see Legia won 5 games, which is worth 5 points, and drew 2 games, which is worth in total 1 point. So in total Legia got 6 points. Then we applied the same principles for remaining teams from Poland, and we end up summing those results to have 19.5 points, which divided by 4, because Poland had 4 teams in the competition, ends up producing 4.875, which we saw in the previous table. So having checked Poland, let's check another example. So let's take a look at Norway, which is neighbor in the UEFA Country Ranking for Poland, and analyze how the current result of Norway, so 3.6 points, is being calculated. So Norway is a bit different from Poland in a bunch of aspects. So first of all, Norway delegated 5 teams to the competition, so each sum of the results will be divided by 5. Secondly, Norway has already 3 teams eliminated from the competitions, which means they will not be able to increase their amount of points and contribution to country ranking. Third of all, their teams that are still active play in different competitions than Polish teams. So Bodo plays in Champions League in the league stage, and Brambergen plays in Europe League stage. What is also interesting is that if you take a look at Bodo Glimt, you can see it won only one qualification game, which would mean it got only 1 point contribution. But you can see also from the column called bonus that it got 6 points bonus, and this is a bonus that is being applied to all of the teams that qualified to the league stage of the Champions League. So in total, Bodo's contribution was 7 points. The teams from Norway in total got 18 points, which divided by 5 gives 3.6. Let's now check on 1 week of games example. What was like 1 week, the most recent week of games in all European competitions for Polish teams and their contribution. So let's start with Champions League. So unfortunately there was no Polish team at this stage, so here Polish teams got 0 points just for this week of games. But when we take a look at Europe League, we can see that Lech Poznań won an away game in Belgium, which converted to 1 point contribution for Polish teams in the UEFA Country Ranking. Also, if we go to the Conference League, we can see another second point for Poland just because Raków won an away game in Bulgaria, and we can see the third point, which is the outcome of 2 draws, one from Jagiellonia in Albania and Legia for home game in Warsaw. So in total, Polish teams got 3 points, divided by 4 ends up producing 0.75 points, which is the contribution to the UEFA Country Ranking just for 1 week of games. Alright, so right now when we finally understand the data we will be working with, let's start with moving this data into Google Sheets. So to open new Google Spreadsheet, we can just type sheets.new in our browser, and we can call our spreadsheet UEFA Country Ranking. So what we will be doing is we will come back to our UEFA Country Ranking page for the current season, and what we can do is first of all left click over the table and select a little part from the table, scroll down, click on left shift and left click below the table. The widget was also highlighted, but we don't need to care about that because it will not be copied into spreadsheet. So if I do Ctrl C, I can do then Ctrl V, and already I will perform some cleanups. So first of all, what I will do is I will select first 2 columns, do right click and click on delete columns. That's the first thing. Secondly, I will go down to check if there is nothing redundant below the table. Also to teach you some shortcuts, what I can do to come back to the top of the table, I can click on any cell and do Ctrl and up arrow twice, so that I am back in the beginning of my worksheet. And what is missing, I need to right now do Ctrl Shift right, not twice. Yep. So I have selected the headers. And what I need to do is go to data and create a filter, which is not required, but I think it works smoothly, and eventually click on country and do sort A to Z. So that my table is now sorted, and what I will do, I will create the same thing for other years, and then it will make it easier for us to copy and build a single table with more than 5 seasons. Okay, so what I will also do is I will call the sheet 21 because this worksheet starts with season 21/22, so it's just for me. And that's pretty much it. So let's do quickly season starting from season 20. So what I can do is go to season 20, and coming back to the Kassiesa website, I need to scroll up, choose this point so that I will shift the focus of the ranking to previous season, select beginning of the table, left shift and left click below the table, copy with Ctrl C, paste with Ctrl V, remove these 2 columns. Also, I can remove all those columns because they are also repeated in the next worksheet, so this is not needed for me anymore. And that's pretty much it. Let's check below, it looks good. So what is missing is I need to sort the table. Like this. And that's all. So what I will do is I will repeat the same operation for multiple worksheets. So yeah, I will be doing that in the background. I will also check how much time I needed for that. So we see ourselves in bunch of seconds. Alright, so it took me around 7 minutes to get the data I want from the website into Excel, which is a nice result, but definitely you notice that it's a quite tedious effort, which also requires a lot of concentration. So also, yeah, I wanted to make this tutorial as easy as possible and available for people with no programming background, but definitely what could help, especially if you want to get more data and repeat the same procedure for, let's say, 10 or 20 more steps, is to learn something about web scraping. So I will not cover this in this tutorial, but eventually there is some programmatical method that extracts specific tags from specific website to form data in the shape you want. Alright, but right now, what we need to do. So first of all, let's go quickly over the worksheets to double check all of them start with Albania. Okay, so here it is missing, so I need to update the sorting. Here we go. Sounds good. Also, we will not need these columns, so we can remove them. And there is one more step missing that we need to do in order to make sure our data is right. Namely, there is a one country that I found out was leading to some data issues because eventually it is not present in all of the seasons. So you will not find the entry for this country in all of the seasons, and this country is Kosovo. So what we need to do is we need to manually add entry for Kosovo with 0 points. And secondly, what we need to do is sort the table once again so that the order is kept. So here I have Kosovo added to my table. Let's see if Kosovo is here. No. So let's add it. Okay, it's good, but it's not sorted yet, so I need to do that. And let's check here. Alright, so this is a season Kosovo was already there and didn't score yet any points, so we are good to go. So right now all of the worksheets are in a proper state and we are ready to generate the final table. So while there are also here more programmatical and more optimized methods to build a final table, like for example using the VLOOKUP function or building some macros, I will cover a simple way which is also efficient for such small tasks. So what we need to do is we need to go to the first worksheet and create a new one, and we will call it final. Why not? And what we need to do is go through all of the worksheets. In the first worksheet, append country with the season, and in the next just copy the column with season and paste it nearby so that we will populate data for a bunch of seasons in our final worksheet, and we will then dump it to CSV so that we can use it in the Collab. Here we we go. So right now we have the whole table prepared, and yeah, while we have a worksheet and we could get it as XLS file and work with it, that's totally fine. There is one less complicated and yet powerful and popular format for data processing, for data analytics, which is CSV, standing for comma separated values. So basically every entry or every row or cell will be separated by a comma. So to render this data into CSV, what we need to do is click on File, Download, and comma separated values. So right now we have data dumped into CSV and we are ready to use it. In this tutorial we will also prepare one additional CSV file we will use for first of the plots we will generate in a video about plotly charts generation. So to prepare the data we will come back to the UEFA Country Ranking page we already knew from previous part of the video, and we will do the same thing. So we will copy the table, paste it, and we will try to match the schema that is defined in the first row. So we want to have country, information about how many teams are active out of how many teams in total, what is the percentage of teams left, and current season contribution to the country ranking. Alright, so first of all we definitely don't need the second row, so we can remove it. Secondly, we can remove these two columns without the titles. So to do that we can select first two cells and then do Ctrl Shift and down arrow to select the whole table, and in this case we can click on delete cells because we don't want to delete the whole column, and do delete cells and shift the remaining parts to the left. So this is how it looks like. Also, what we don't need is this 4 columns representing the values from 4 seasons, so we can safely remove it. And what we can do next, so this is current season, so we can also copy it here. Those 2 columns can be removed. And finally we can get this. We can cut it, so Ctrl X, not Ctrl C. Ctrl C is fine, but then you will need to remove this column afterwards, and paste it here. So what we now want to do is we want to split those values into 2 columns so that left represents active, right represents total. To do that we can click on data, split text to columns, and you can see that Google Spreadsheets are so smart that they automatically recognize like which value to split on, and namely here is the backslash. So we don't want these backslashes, so next thing we want to do to clean the data for us is to select with Ctrl Shift and down arrow, click Ctrl F, actually Ctrl H. So we want to find backslash and replace it with empty value for the range we just selected. If we replace it, we can quickly observe that data looks better. Also, nice trick from Excel is that when the data is aligned to the right, it means Excel properly recognized this as numbers. So remember that, this is very helpful. So if we have already the data, we can see that in case of countries for which there are no remaining teams, there is only one value. So we want to do some basic manipulations. So we want to cut and move this data to the right, because this represents all teams. Here we have a bigger block, so it will be a bit faster. And also here. Good. And for these gaps, we need to just fill zeros. Here what we can do is we can do for the first value, enter 0, and then select the whole part that should be filled with zeros and click Ctrl D, so it will be filled for us. For the rest, let's do that manually because it's just a bunch of rows. Okay, we are all set. So the last thing we want to do is we want to see the percentage of teams that are left in the competition. So we want to divide teams active by teams total. That's first thing. Excel suggested autofill for us. And what we want to do is, if I selected those values, I want to replace the format, not with decimals, but percentage. And you can quickly see we now have nice information about the percentage of the teams. What we want to do is fix the case for Russia, which doesn't have any team left and doesn't have any team in the European competitions, so we can just replace it with 0% because here we had division by 0 error, and that's pretty much it. So when you are done, we can once again dump it to the CSV, and that's it. So the data is prepared and we are right now ready to jump into pandas to do some final pre-processing before creating the plots.